a scion of many worlds. As the meeting with Lady Tycanped is going on, Horus has a meeting of his own. So, I have some good and bad news for you girls and your organizations, including the allies you've mentioned in passing. I've not mentioned them to you. Not to me, no. He confirms, and she gives him a stink eye from under the mask. Did you really think we weren't listening? You send killers with knives after my brother and honestly think I'm not going to be doing 100 different things to look at what's going on? Horus demands, and she sighs too softly for him to hear as she looks away. Just how? If you agree to the next bit, I'll teach you, or rather, I'll have an expert assign you lessons. I'm not a spy master, I just have one working with me. Horus says, and she gives him a look. Come now. As a leader, you yourself should know just how useful it is to have experts of all sorts around. Which is tailors, smiths, doctors, and informants for my people, Sheena says. And in my case, it means many more. Now, do you wish to hear the proper offer? Horus asks her. Very well. I want to more or less permanently fold all of the organizations under and allied to yourself into the Undaunted. You and yours would make exceptional undercover agents and spies. The thieves would make better information gatherers and potential saboteurs, and the entertainers are exactly the type to blend into a crowd. And the Red Blade Warriors, Sheena asks. They can be easily rolled into the Undaunted as a whole. I think they'd be more than willing to have an ongoing contract with us if we're providing training and access to advanced weapons and equipment on top of payment. So that's your offer. We get all the training to do what we want in the advanced age coming at us, and you think we'll just sign up for that? No, I think you'll sign up to be on the winning side, for a large amount of pay for each person, for extremely generous medical benefits that all of you are going to be enjoying in the advanced weapons and equipment training, among many, many other benefits. After all, it's a simple matter of completing your training and requesting a post-off lacrin to find yourself on another world entirely. So you offer royal wealth, immortality, knowledge beyond mortal ken and the stars themselves. That's an overly grandiose and completely accurate summation of what I'm offering, yes, Horus says in an amused tone. Is it now? Well, that just sounds too good to be true. You need to expand your understanding of things then. He answers and she scoffs. Then she pauses and considers. You have a question? The healing process that the doctor used has worked on Lady Shimmer and her daughter, hasn't it? It has. The daughter has gone from nearly anemic and frail to downright hyper, and Lady Shimmer herself has apparently had some downright revelations about things. You'll have to ask Dr. Skitterway for more information, but be prepared for a dearth of information. Why is that? Doctor-patient confidentiality. It's a moral stance that she not only holds but teaches. So beyond some very general bits of information, she won't tell you anything about another patient, Horus says. I see. And she's probably joining the plan that the big moth and snake are in the middle of. You don't need to fish for information I'm willing to give you outright. What are the moth and serpent planning? Scorchfinger asks in an annoyed tone. It's very hard to be sneaky around people that are so upfront and honest. A wedding. What? A big ceremonial wedding that will unify Lacrin under their protection and put a great big barrier in front of anyone coming with ill intent to this planet. Basically, as primals, they have a kind of authority and nigh mystic presence and respect that can't be faked in the galaxy at large, which means that this will bring huge attention to Lacrin in such a way that anyone trying to take advantage of it will be quickly piled onto by many, many other forces, and it opens anyone who does that to retaliation from any force, even remotely attached to Emmanuel or Izareason, which is the entire world, which is numerous worlds, fleets, space stations, and some entire cultures. If they send out a true call for help, they can get potentially trillions of armies to answer. Just try and think about that.
The mystique of a primal is so grand that the last time one primal sent out a call to arms, the galaxy nearly broke. The Age of Pure Serpents, it was called. What did she do with that power? It's more what she's still doing, Horus states. But she's basically kicked off a roving crusade that became a culture. Altiarta, Lady of War. She saw immense corruption in the previous council and started a purging war that toppled thousands of nations and peoples. She forced through immense legislation for the citizens' rights to weapons and arms and a gigantic web of anti-corruption laws that to this day are still being picked apart piece by those who are eager to abuse their power. But they're also being cautious because the ancient bitch is still out there, and a major reason why people respect political groups that are effectively just armies, much like my own of the Undaunted. And she's still doing this? How old is she? She predates Lakran by a hefty margin. This is a woman that considers 1,000 years may be enough time to build something worthwhile. But to quote Altiarta more directly, it takes at least 1,000 years to set down a proper foundation for a world, Horus says, and Sheena stares for a moment before thinking. And we've been here for 1,000 years. Hence why I can quote her so easily. She's been on the brain a bit, Horus says, and Sheena crosses her arms and considers. How common are primals? In the whole galaxy, we could fit all of them in just one of our relief vessels. They're rare, and very well regarded. The only ones that don't shake worlds with their every move are the ones who are trying to not be noticed, Horus says, and Sheena considers. It seems wrong that some are simply born. No, your brother wasn't born primal. He earned it somehow. He earned it here, on Lakran. Now, what does that tell you? Shit, Sheena mutters. Exactly. How fast can I get me and mine off the planet? She asks. Really? You want to bail? I want an escape route in case an unending swarm of crazies doing stupid things shows up in my backyard, she says, and Horus laughs. A good point, but first, let's get in contact with your daughter so we can get her onto Dr. Skitterway's list for some expedited healing. Then together, you should make a decision about whether or not to run, Horus says, and Sheena nods. Right, that's a good point. Also, I'll be meeting with your friends later today. Do you want to join me? How good is your spy master? He has the names, faces, and habits of your entire organization and its allied organizations. Why? You introduced yourself trying to kill one of us. Care to ask a question without an obvious answer? Horus asks, and she sighs. What's the pay like? So yes, focusing upon your overlarge wings and antenna would be an excellent start. But you need to find a balance between yourself and Isarizen. She will be better regarded upon Lakran from my understanding, but you will be of immense interest to the galaxy at large. If they're clever, can they not have the symbol utilize both of their traits in the line work? Sir Philip asks, and Lady Tycanped turns to him. Pardon me, I've had a bit of an idea. If you two could stand together, please? Like this? Emmanuel asks as he stands beside Isarizen. Now, step behind her and open your wings. Miss Isarizen, if you could rise up and flare your hood, Sir Philip asks, and she does so. Excellent. Now, Emmanuel, if you could hold your hands out to either side, and if the lady would be so kind as to grasp each of his 6 digits. Oh, I see. That is interesting, Lady Tycanped says. A near-perfect picture, but it would make a poor symbol. They're best kept relatively simple and easy to reproduce and to scale upwards and downwards. Symbols that can fit on a badge or a stamp survive the test of time easier than others. Nearly there, madam. Now, this next part is more of the imagination. But if somehow Lady Isarizen had her tail forwards and wrapped around an egg, that would convey everything, wouldn't it? Strength and protection from Emmanuel, nurturing compassion and resilience from Isarizen. Yes, and it can be simplified into an abstract, Lady Tycanped says. A very interesting idea. However, A first draft is just that, a first draft. Not a bad idea, however. Thank you, madam. Now back to the subject at hand. The wedding. The best way to do this would be to have representatives from each nation in their colors as both witnesses and officiators. Effectively, have them ask for your protection in exchange for loyalty, or whatever equivalent they will accept, and have it as part of the vows. So, if I go up to represent Miru, I ask you if you will guard and protect Miru, its people, and its hopes? Zavaya asks. I shall, Emmanuel says. I will. Isarisen replies, and Zavaya gives the typical teenager sigh of annoyance when the adults are being mushy. Then Magrika makes herself known again as she flops onto Emmanuel's head. There is very little room between her and the ceiling. So, what happens with me and Allure? I know this is all a big official woo-woo for all the muckety-mucks the galaxy over to make them think twice before they show up to fill a bag full of goodies, but what do I and Allure do? Not only did we see him first, but we're kind of pregnant. You two, along with his mother and brother, will be welcoming her into the family, much like how Lady Isarisen's family will be welcoming him into theirs. This will actually help a great deal to emphasize that you are unifying and coming together. You can also introduce yourself and explain how you met Emmanuel during the ceremony as part of it. I tried to retrieve him after a certain Cretan stole him from us. Then when he resisted, I fought back hard, and it only made him stronger until he could no longer be fought. Lady Allure says, and Magrika cackles. I stole him. I love that. But yeah, I stole him. Hey, Magrika says, and Emmanuel gives her a poke with his antenna. I'm fairly sure I went willingly. Just because something was easy doesn't mean it wasn't done. Also, the legal term is kidnapping. You were napping, but you were a bit big to be considered a kid even back then, Magrika replies. That was terrible, and you should feel terrible, Emmanuel says, and she blows a raspberry at him. There is a pointed cough from Lady Takanped. If we could have some dignity back in the room, please, Lady Takanped asks pointedly, and Emmanuel plucks Magrika off his head. Thank you for being so good about this. I know it can be hard to share at times. Isarisen says, rising up a bit and offering Magrika a kiss on the cheek. Oh, okay. You're welcome, Magrika asks, looking back up to Emmanuel's face. The real fun about getting a prize is the fight for it. Keeping it is something else entirely, and it's not like I'm losing him. Hell, with the longer lives, I'm getting more and more of him to the point where I may as well have as much as I could ever want. If I get to live forever, I get as much as I want. And you won't be alone forever, or losing people forever as I was, which were the only real downsides to my long life, Isarisen says with a hint of sadness. Emmanuel's arm comes around and she's pulled into the almost pillow-like effect of Emmanuel's fur being trapped under a shirt. You're okay. You're going to be okay. He assures her, and Lady Takanped snaps out her fan to hide her smile. It's downright dangerous, to be honest. This wedding is going to be a jewel in her personal crown, and all the work is being done for her. She wonders just how big a personal reward she's going to have to give to Admiral Cistern for this. Then there's a sudden gleam in her eye as she figures it out. After all, he has his own little caveat on when he's going to be married. She can easily have it expedited.